Thank you, Kanishk, for joining us today for this conversation. We are really glad to have you all the way from Boston to in India, in Bangalore at IIT ACB and ACSEL Technology Forum. Um, you know, your work has been, it has influenced both startups and individuals and big corporations as well. How do you choose problems that create, real world impact?
Yeah. Um, that's a hard question. So mainly it's from questions that I find intellectually appealing. So I started in this world of AI and pricing from a frustration that computer scientists were taking over the world of pricing because they had tools that economists didn't. And then that's losing out on some sort of economic value or economic thought. So my first paper in this area was trying to take a computer science model. In fact, we took a computer science model and built economics into it. So saying, like, if we have some economic fundamentals, can we take the computer science model and make it better? And that's how I got into this. And again, I think that was important because then you can show sort of computer scientists that, like, yes, you can take their models as a starting point, not the ending point, which sort of was valuable. Recently, my interest is a little bit more about policy. So with all these AI tools coming from everywhere, like, governments are struggling with what should policy be?
Absolutely.
What should guidelines be?
Absolutely.
And that I find intellectually interesting. Like, that's an interesting conversation to think of, like, what should there be limits on data sharing? Should there be limits on algorithm sharing? Should firms actually have to give their algorithms out to the government or not? Because an algorithm that you use is your intellectual property.
Absolutely.
Right? But if algorithms can lead to societal harm in any way, so prices being too high or discrimination, should that be regulated in any way, shape, or form? And currently that's what drives.
Absolutely, and accountability also plays a big role here.
Yeah.
How do you hold people who have built these systems accountable when they're used in the public space, especially?
Exactly.
Now tell me, why do you think that some organizations turn data into competitive advantage while others are simply just collecting it and sitting over it?
It's about using data smartly, right? Having the right people to use data smartly. I think that's been, at least what I see, the big difference in that. Lots of firms have data, they want data, but how you actually use that data to make a better decision.
Absolutely.
Right? And then I think it's down to people. So people with training to use the data in sort of a particularly useful way. It also comes down to leaders, where some leaders want to rely a little bit more on data, where some leaders feel like they want their decision justified by data. So
okay, that's interesting.
Which makes sort of the data use a little bit trickier.
Oh, absolutely. That actually makes sense. What do you think are the most important economic principles, since you are a veteran in this particular field, that every founder or of every startup should understand?
Yeah. So in the world of pricing, the fundamental of how prices impact demand, like, that's, if you can figure that out, you're way down on the road of, like, figuring out, at least in my world, of, like, how you figure this out. But figuring this out is hard.
Yeah.
That's the economic primitive that everyone wants to get to. A lot of startups either have it by intuition, or have done some market research where they've got a good grip on, like, what their price is. And I think that to me is, like, the big economic primitive that startups need.
So think of someone who's just about to, is pretty naive, young, but has a great idea, wants to start up, wants to have a startup. What should be the first steps that this person should actually think of
Sure.
and work around?
Sure. So like the first perspective is trying to think about, so if you got a startup, for your end customer, what's the value you're creating, right? So so again, if you have an end startup, compared to that, if it's an end customer, compared to what the customer would have done without you being there. So say I've got like a new search engine. If I didn't use this new search engine, I would be using Google.
Right.
What's the value for me over Google, right? And then you can, so at least when I talk to founders, they have they have an intuition, or they have like a belief of what their value is compared to their competitors. Saying,
Yes.
compared to my competitor, here's what I value. The hard part is putting numbers to it. So yes, I'm better. Am I 200 rupees better? Am I 2,000 rupees better? Am I 2 lakh rupees better? And that is where you need to do some sort of market research.
No, absolutely. Otherwise, we will always be on the biased side.
Yeah. You'll always believe you're much better.
Absolutely.
And does the end customer care? Right?
Yeah.
Like, does the end customer see it?
Is it actually solving a problem, or is it just like just a small enhancement which is really not needed? Now, as per you, as AI becomes more and more powerful, where do you think the leaders should trust it, and where should they rely on their human experience?
Well, so experience is going to play a key role. I think auditing of AI is critically important. So AI is very powerful, especially now in 2026. The innovation's been, like, the pace of innovation's been really fast.
Absolutely.
But auditing of it is critically important, right? So does it make sense? Do you have some guardrails to make sure the outcomes are making sense? And then the one really positive part about AI is you can train it to personalize it for yourself.
Absolutely.
So once you've taken the base model and you have personalized it with your own agents or your own sort of models, it'll get better.
Right.
But that early part is the critical element of where you need human interaction before you can sort of let these models.
Absolutely. And I also think it's very critical that one shouldn't think that AI is there to replace jobs.
Sure.
If you use AI, as an added advantage, as a partner working with you, I think productivity would be skyrocketing. Absolutely. Yes. Isn't it?
Well, yeah, 100%. It's like used well, the productivity is enormous. The productivity gains are enormous.
Fantastic. So, after teaching at some of the world's top business schools, what traits consistently separate exceptional leaders from the rest?
Well, I think creativity, problem solving, and teamwork are the three. I think so working well with others, thinking of problems, solutions that maybe other people aren't thinking of, and teamwork is important. And again, every business school pushes on it. It's because if you can't get things done with the team, you're not going to succeed. And I think those hold true whether with or without AI. It's positive.
Okay. So, what is the current book maybe that you're reading? And
actually, I've been reading more papers than books these days because books are a little bit behind, at least in the world of AI. The one really nice part about today's world, which again was very different to when I joined academia, is we're getting some really good informative papers from places like Google Brain, places like Spotify, people like Netflix, who are implementing things at a scale that we in academia don't. So it's really good. So I spend a lot of time reading work from industry.
Mm-hmm.
And again, it's PhDs in industry who are publishing. May not be publishing always at sort of top journals, but I find that those sets of papers really insightful to help me sort of better understand how firms are thinking at sort of broader scale and how sort of implementation is happening.
What was that one paper you read, which you thought that actually changed your thought process or
So there was a recent paper. It was by folks at Google Brain who were doing the recommendation system for Uber Eats.
Okay.
Okay, so the problem is you go to your app, they know what you've liked in the past, and they have to give you restaurants in a different order. There's a simple solution to it, which says just whatever you did in the past is what you're going to do. But then they felt, well, if I do that, you're never going to discover something new.
Right.
So then you have to then blend in what you like, what everyone else likes, and then what might be new that you might be interested in. And I think, again, as an academic, I may not have thought about like these different sort of parts coming in quite nicely, and I thought they had a nice implementation to change their recommendation.
Interesting, very interesting. So now, there are so many students in colleges these days. In fact, in Bangalore, we see an extra focus in colleges towards AI. Again, as a professor, how do you think students should tread this path?
Carefully. I think so. The biggest problem is students can sometimes be a little bit sort of lazy and rely only on AI. And then you cannot do this auditing. Then you don't know whether it's right or wrong, right? So you have to build some sort of expertise that then sort of frame whether something is right, something is wrong. I think that's where universities sort of currently still play an important role. But that being said, I am very much for asking my students to use AI tools, but use them to solve problems that we've defined in class. So we'll discuss a problem, we'll discuss a way to solve it, hopefully build some expertise, and then start using these tools.
Please share probably a few instances where students have come up with ideas on problem solving. Why this would be very important is for the viewers of this podcast, there would be a lot of students who would be watching it. And it's good to have a sneak peek into the minds of students who are in Boston, understanding what they're trying to do, how they're trying to do it.
So let's see. So this year when I was teaching my MBA class, so one of the things, I teach pricing in my MBA class. And then with pricing, again, with this teamwork thing, you have to work with different elements of business to make sure the price is right. So you have to work with supply chain, you have to work with finance, you have to work with accounting. And then again, if you go into pricing in a large MNC type company, your job is going to be pricing, but you have to get inputs from all these people. So what one of my students had done is, from the other classes that they took in their MBA, they trained a finance agent, they trained a supply chain agent, they trained an accounting agent based on sort of MBA knowledge. And then they simulated this outcome of the pricing manager talking to all these people to set a price, which I thought was a great way to combine learning across different classes, and that to me is the perfect way to implement these sorts of things.
That's actually very, very intellectual, I must say.
Exactly. So which is great. It's a great way. I teach my class, a second year class, so they've already taken a bunch of classes. It's a great way to sort of combine learning across.
Wow. There's so much to learn in AI, but why AI in pricing for you?
The biggest thing is scale, which if without AI you just can't achieve. The scale, speed, humans can't do it. It's
absolutely. So Kanishka, final question. Which book would you recommend the viewers to read in today's day and age?
All right. So I'm going to recommend a slightly technical book so viewers can sort of understand the fundamentals of some of these fundamental building blocks, some of these new tools. It's a book called Reinforcement Learning by Sutton and Barrow. It talks about sort of different forms of experimentation, but it also talks about statistical learning, which is sort of a core fundamental building block for all these new LLMs. I think if you know that, it helps you understand what's happening and it helps you understand why things why models say certain things sometimes and others other, and how sort of implementations changing over time. So
Great.
great.
That sounds very interesting. I'm probably going to get my hands on that book. Thank you so much for joining us today. It was a pleasure having you. And, we look forward to engaging with you more and more, and hopefully bringing in our startups to come and engage with you as well.
Perfect.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me.